Okay, so in the lines before these lines, we learned the reasons why Juno hated Aeneas. Okay, so what were the reasons Juno hated Aeneas? The judgment of Paris, where she got judged not the prettiest one. Okay, what else? The hated race because of Dardanus, who was the son of Electra, who was like her mean girl archenemy. And then the third one was the seized honor of Ganymede, right? Ganymede was Zeus's or Jupiter's cupbearer, right? And she wished it had been her daughter Hebe. Okay, so now in these next set of lines, we're going to see hatred in action. So Juno persuades Aeolus. Okay, who is Aeolus? Yeah, he was the king of the winds, right? He was the king of the winds to send a terrible storm against Aeneas. Okay? And then Neptune's going to come in and calm the storm, and Vergil's going to say, oh, one day there's going to be a man who comes in and calms the storm of the chaos of the civil wars. Who might that be? Our friend Augustus. That's right. Okay. So the kind of the juxtaposition of furor, okay, which we see in the character of Juno, and pietas. What is pietas? Yeah, your devotion to duty. You doing what you're supposed to do. Okay? Okay, so that's kind of what you're supposed to get out of this next section here. Okay, so our subject right here was happy, right? And we talked about how that was Aeneas's men. I guess they were just happy to get out of the storm. So we got, and then our main verb is here. So we got scarcely out of the sight of the Sicilian land, the happy men were giving sails into the deep. Okay? And this whole, like, scarcely out of the sight of right here is kind of a shout out to, or an echo, I guess you could say, of Homer, and the idea that epics began in medias res. What does medias res mean? In the middle of things. So we're, like, back to, telling the story from the middle. Because he's going to, like, flash back to the Trojan War in Book 2. So we got, like, the now, then we're going to have a flashback, then we're coming back to what happens. Okay. So, and they were help me out. What does ruebant mean? Oh, they were driving the foams like the foam of the sea. I guess it would be the foam of the, literally that's the word for salt, but you could say sea, with their bronze. What on earth does that mean? Okay, well, the bronze is talking about the prow of the ship. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so like that is like literally the image of plowing, and if you think about it, you see how this is like the S words, like if you think about a ship as it goes and like hits the water, it kind of makes that sound.
Is the salt sea thing?
Yeah, the salt sea thing is metonymy. Yes. Okay. Okay, so how do I know? I'm going to look right here, okay? How do I know if this cum is when or with? Okay, so we know that this could only be, because her name is Eunonis. So this has to be when. So we got when Juno saving, okay, that describes Juno because it's nominative. Okay, saving, and then it takes a direct object. The Aeternum Vulnus. The what? Eternal wound under her chest. Okay, do you see the synchesis here? Okay, so it's like her spirit is like heavily wounded or weighed down by this hatred that she has for the Trojan. And if you look at it, I'll switch colors here. If you look at it, if you scan this line, okay. Okay, so we got long, 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 long. Hold on. I skipped a sentence here. Oh. Sorry, let me back up here. I missed an elision. Okay, do you see how all of these, like the parade of spondees? Okay, so that's showing how like heavily weighed down she was by her hatred of or her rejected whatever. Okay, so we got when Juno saving the eternal wound under her chest. Okay, then you have to kind of put a says in there these things to herself. Okay, obviously, a lot of times you're going to find out that Vergil leaves out the word says, okay, because it takes up valuable space in his line of poetry. So sometimes you just have to stick it in there. But like the AP exam will give you like the quote so you know. Does that make sense? Okay, then if you look in my book, this is my book from high school way back. It's a throwback book here. But you'll see out here on every time there was a speech, I went through and wrote like a one-sentence summary of what that speech is about. Or if it's like a simile comparing things, one thing to another, I wrote like, simile comparing, Neptune calming the winds to Aeneas calming the crowd to Augustus calming the Roman people. Like, so when I go back and study, I'll have some sort of clue what in the hell is going on. And hey, it served me well for 20 years now. 20 years ago I was in, yeah. Anyway, it's kind of scary. Okay. Okay, so okay, so your verb here. So this is Juno talking to herself. Okay, and my one sentence summary was, why can't I keep the Trojans from getting to Italy? Okay, so we got and kepto is my verb, right? Okay, and see these complementary infinitives here?
that for what she's about to say?
Yeah, that's what she's about to say. Okay, so it says these are infinitives in an exclamatory question. Oops. I just lied to you. Okay, so what they're saying is, because it says this is ablative. Oops. That you should translate these like main verbs. It says the use of an accusative and an infinitive interrogatively without a principal verb expresses strong indignation. Okay, so like such indignation that he couldn't be bothered to like give us a real verb. So basically your subject is me. So am I not able to stop from my undertaking? That's the incepto. Okay, and this PPP is going back and describing her having been conquered, like having been beaten up. So after all of these injustices, why won't you just let me do what I want to do? Okay, and then we got, am I not able to turn aside the king of the Trojans from Italy? Okay, so in our list of Greek names and Trojan names, okay, so the Teucri were another name for the Trojans, based on the fact that they came from Teucer, Tuecer, Teucer was their first king, so they were called the Teucrians. Okay, one other thing to be careful of, don't get regim mixed up with a regnum. Regnum kingdom, regim king. Okay. Okay, so here's her excuse. Truly, that's this word, truly.
I think we should use forsooth.
Forsooth, I am forbidden by the fates. So it's like forsooth is like, I am so scorned, that I'm forbidden by the fates to be doing it. And this commentary says, Juno's subsequent actions will show that while fate might mandate a certain outcome, she has the ability to influence the path to it. Dun dun dun. Okay, so now she's going to give us an example of, when someone else got to exact some revenge for their fate, for the fate of somebody else that they didn't like. Okay, who is Pallas? Pallas is another name for... Okay, yeah, Pallas is another name for Minerva. Okay, and why does she pick Minerva? Yeah, well, yeah. She was like her another rival goddess, okay? So we got, and that's our subject. So, hold on. Okay, so we got, did Pallas burn. Okay, still with those weirdo questions. Burn the Argive fleet. Now, who are the Argives? The Greeks. And was able to sink themselves, or those guys, in the sea.
There's like 4 ways to say the word sea, just the best ways.
Yeah. I wonder if you should put this pot to wit with both of these infinitives. Like, was Pallas able to burn the Argive fleet and to submerge they themselves in the sea? That might be better. Okay, on account of the crime and madness of one Ajax of Oleus. Okay, so this is not like Ajax, like our famous Ajax guy that got the son of Telamon. Okay, so this is Ajax, son of Oileus. He desecrated the temple of Minerva during the sack of Troy, when before the very altar of the sanctuary he seized Cassandra, Priam's daughter and priestess of Minerva. Enraged at such rash irreverence, Minerva later sank the ship of Ajax and destroyed him with lightning. Dun dun dun. The lesser Ajax. Okay, so she's given an example. You know, why can't I punish somebody like Minerva punished somebody? It's like the same thing I want to do. I want to wipe him and his men off the face of the planet in the sea. Okay, so this she herself is still talking about Minerva. Okay. Okay, here's how she killed him. She disyeket. What does disyeket mean? Yeah, she overturned
In here, I thought it says scattered.
Okay, scattered. Thank you. She scattered hold on. Let's not do that first. Let's go back and do this Yaculata. Okay? And this comes from Yaculor. Okay, so it's deponent. Okay? So you're going to say, she herself, having hurled rapid fire from the clouds. What is rapid fire from the clouds? Yeah, lightning. Okay, and she overturned the ships and she overturned the seas by the winds. Where does what? Oh, yes. The rapid fire of Jove. Good catch. She herself, having hurled the rapid fire of Jove. Yep. From the clouds. Okay, I think I would put both and now that I'm looking at it. Both overturned the ships and overturned the sea by means of winds. Because she could have just used it right here. But because she used quay, she's showing like the magnitude of her destruction. Yeah, it's polysyndeton. Yeah. It is.
They don't ever ask you to spell out these words. Do they? You spell polysynthetic at the same time.
Well, they'll give it to you if you're close. Okay. Okay, so this next line, you have to go to the next line after that to get this. So I'm going to go back and forth here. Okay, so Karipuwit. What does Karipuwit mean? Yes, she snatched. Okay, I'm going to go back to the previous slide. She snatched. This is the best part. That one, okay, who is that one? Yeah, Ajax. Okay, Experantem. What's Experantem? Exhaling. Okay, flames. And then we got an ablative absolute. Well, this says not an ablative absolute. It says it's an ablative of source. Whatever that means. Okay, so this one has breathing flames from his pierced chest. Okay, what was pierced? Why was it pierced? Yeah, the rapid fire. That's a pretty awesome mental image, right? Yeah, so like here's him, here's Ajax, okay? Okay, here he is, you know, under the sea here. Oh, you can't see him. Well, I don't know why you can't see him. Then he has like fire-breathing flames here. Okay, here, look. Like, here he is down here. Right? With fire coming out of his chest, yeah. Little lightning bolts. Okay. What's turbine? Okay, so how does that fit in here?
Did we translate it as waves one time? Everywhere.
Whirlwind, storm.
Why at the end of like in this book is there like a looks like a cross at the end of all of them? Or like there's a cross on like some of the words, like the last words. Maybe it's like the most ancient meaning or something. I don't know.
No, I think it has to do with how many times it's also in the Aeneid. There's like a 10 or more times list and 5 or more times list in the back of the book. Yeah. I think they're trying to help you out. Okay, so let's say by means of a whirlwind. By means of a storm. Oh no. Okay, and Karipuwit snatched him up, and let's see both, and both snatched him up and impaled him on a sharp crag. Okay, pretty violent death there. Okay, now she's going to be incredulous. Okay, but so this ast is just an archaic form of at. Okay, now she's going to tell us who I am, right? But I, who who strides as the queen of the gods and both the sister and the wife of Jupiter. Notice the polysyndeton here. Like I'm all these things. Okay. I wage wars. Accusative duration of time. For so many years. Together with that race. What does that mean? Yeah, she's like, I waged war with the Trojans for 10 years. Still didn't get rid of them all. Still didn't stop them from, founding their Roman race and all that jazz. I want to take care of them once and for all by, drowning them in the Mediterranean Sea. But, I keep getting foiled. Okay, so this next part's kind of a rhetorical question. And is there... Okay, so look, don't get confused and think this quam means it's accusative, okay? This is one of those indefinite adjectives. Okay, so we've also seen like things that end in dom, it means a certain, right? Or quisque means each. Okay, this quisquam means any. So basically this part of the quisquam, the it declines like quid, like kind of like quid. Okay, but the quam is like the suffix, which tells you that it means anyone. Okay, if it was quidquam, it'd be anything. Okay, so you're going to say, so it's still nominative. So in any, is there any divine will, or maybe, well, hold on. Sorry. And I'm going to say, does anyone, what did I say? Is that what it said? Does anyone, this is actually accusative. Does anyone worship the divine will of Juno? Or hereafter will, this is future tense, will any suppliant place an honor, like honors, on my altars? They say this is dative, okay? So next up is the storm.